Hey guys, how's it going, shepherds? I hope you guys have a good night. It is the mid part of the witching hour, and we are up here to talk about Theocivics, the beginning of government, and how to effectively govern one's own community itself. From a theological point. So work with me. I'm still working on that sleep schedule shift thing that's going on in my body, but we're gonna see how far we can go with this before I roll out for the night. 55 degrees outside? Oh my gosh, what am I doing to myself? Anyways, enjoy your intro song. That's right. And now that's such a foundational part of theo theocracy. When you're trying to discuss theocracy, it's not that we're trying to put the Father on the throne of the nation. We're trying to put Christ above all else. So it helps us to be able to, keep in mind that perspective that we are here serving with the intent to reform a broken world, a world full of death, disease, famine, all these oppressive elements and abusive elements by which people suffer and strive against. So we can't create utopia, we know that, but we never had the assumptions that we had the power to do that as men. And so when people think about the idea of us trying to put God into legislation, quote unquote, quote unquote, I would say that that's the wrong assumption. We're trying to put Jesus into legislation, which is basically the element of restoration and redemption. AKA, we believe that all people should be able to be not accountable just to the government, but to a redemptive entity by which the government itself cannot really judge, nor really oppress, nor really rule over. And the idea is that in our and that's the thing is most Americans they only are willing to look the last 200 years into the history because they're just in our hubris we think that we know everything, especially about Christianity, which is really frustrating when atheists and ex-Christians are the quickest to make assumptions about history that they have no grounds to even start talking about because they haven't studied it. Um, if you don't even know who Oliver Cromwell is, then you don't have business talking about theocracy and how that comes into play and how the Roman Catholic Church was oppressing different empires and how people had to become oppressive in their own sense in order to fight against those oppressive systems, how these systems never were actually destroyed, but people fled from them into the New World in order to create a free Christian society by which every Christian denomination can pursue God in their own unique way as independent faculties of the Christian body. So, when people say, oh, America isn't a Christian nation, one, you can look into the California Constitution. After we bought this land from Spain, we basically consecrated the entire western frontier to Christ, and then every single state made their constitution based on Christ. And they allowed other religions to be protected under, and that includes non Christian religions, to be protected under Christ, because the belief is that all people should come to Christ on their own accord, from their own free will, and their own assessment of the value of the Christian gospel. So the idea is that if the Christian gospel is adopted through the sword, through force, then you've invalidated the very purpose by which Christ died on the cross for. So Christianity can only be spread through free speech, free expression, and free press. That is why we have the elements of the Bill of Rights and the Constitution as we do. And the whole Constitution is based around, the need to free us from the monarchy, not the idea of need to free us from, well, free us from the monarchy, but also to free us from the papacy. And once we were freed from the papacy and we were freed from the monarchy, we were basically able to create Christian churches that were able to define their allegiance to the land the people were born at and the communities by which each church is established into, rather than the will of a nation being steered by their political and social alliances to a group like the Catholic Church. And that even extended to certain extents of orthodoxy and aspects of that. But again, that's all conversations that require much more detailed minds than mine to get into, and you guys can find these videos online. Again, I think the Oliver Cromwell situation is a very good assessment of the general considerations that have to be made when trying to create a theocracy and the compromises that are made in order to create it in relation to the whole Scotland-Ireland situation. Um, which we're still suffering from in the sense of civil war and strife. Which, again, if personally, while I understand the need to free people from the Catholic Church, at the same time, that shouldn't have been a split that should have been forced by Britain. It should have been done from in Ireland and Scotland themselves, rather than from external forces acting upon the local people. But again, the enemy works as a type of being that consumes both ends. So yeah, kind of get us into the frame of reference for what kind of battle we're fighting with this Messiah of ours. I'm gonna go and do a link into. I like to listen to like podcasts and discussion channels and interviews and stuff like that. But this one was just kind of my goof off thing while I was trying to handle some math work. But they raised a really good question about something that's going on in the Game of Thrones books, which are still continuing. While the Game of Thrones series as a TV show ended, the book series is very different and it has very different premises and themes that come up in it. And And so I'm gonna link you guys to the Green Hand. These guys are great, and I actually got reference to them through this lore guide that I listened to for Hobbit lore. But that's all side stuff that I'll probably show you guys one of these days. But this is just something cool that I thought really kind of brings out that scope of what it's like to serve in this kind of spiritual battle that we're in.
Thank you so much. How crazy if we have a Night King raising ice whites as they fall, and a High Priest of R'hllor raising the fiery hand fire whites in battle. So everyone that's dying just keeps getting resurrected as either ice whites or fire whites. That's a great
Interesting notion. I mean, right. I
bring about the Red Priest, and they're just reviving everyone that falls in battle and keeping
the same way. And then like now we've just got all zombies, fire zombies and ice zombies.
But in the race is going to be how fast can you raise the people? Can you
right? Who's quicker at raising them?
Can you raise them fast enough to stop the others from making them their minions?
But like now we've got a bunch of fire whites. Like
now we've got a whole bunch of Barrack Dundarians running around,
and some of them turn into Catlins. Not all of them stay as good as Barrack. So like I don't want yikes. Count Valerian just goes, yeah, the zombie arms race.
But it actually,
I mean, that's not crazy. That's not a crazy thought.
It actually would be, from a tactical standpoint, brilliant to try to raise them as fire whites before the others can raise them as their minions that will turn around and try to kill you. Those dead bodies are going to get back up one way or another. Those dead bodies are not staying where they fell. So if you can get an army of red priests there trying to raise up everybody as fire whites, George, if you're listening, this would be really cool. Maybe you should consider doing that.
I know everybody's like really into that comment.
Exactly. My mind might have just been blown by what you just said. I had never considered that. But why not do that? That from a tactical standpoint, you need to stop the others from raising up all of your dead as their minions. Otherwise, every battle, their army gets bigger.
I 100% agree. Antoinette's mind is like blown and spinning, and so is mine.
I feel like I'm drunk right now.
I know. I can't take credit for that one.
X Factor, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah, we know you're in there, George.
Yeah, George, if you're sneakily watching Song of Ice and Fire live streams on Thursday nights.
I would if I was him. I mean, why not? See what people are saying. Maybe not every week, but I would keep it. Anyway, if he is there, wow, I never even thought about that. But I think it's something that he would think of. But now we've just got like a bunch of zombies.
Everyone's zombies.
All right. Well, very cool thought. Let's give credit to X Factor and thank he or she, I can't remember, for the comment.
That moment when you realize you were spitting hot fire and then you had the thing on mute. Damn. So yeah, to reiterate what I was trying to say, um, oh, that really threw me off. Crap like that makes me tired, because then I'm just like, ugh, why the hell am I even doing this? See, but that's where the overcoming comes in, because that's the flesh acting in that moment. The what? Why? Why am I wasting my time? For having to repeat myself every 5 seconds. Okay, so general gist of what we're going to talk about is the idea that, because next chapters we're going to get back to the group. We're going to do Ten Commandments. We'll start going back to the Xeno people and all that stuff. Today we're going to talk about why this stuff is important. And what I was talking about just now is that if you look into the aspects of the Salem witch trial, and if you look into the aspects of how things like the Spanish Inquisition go about occurring, you can actually get a very definite argument that these things were actually caused by false worship, false prophecy, and false testimony. And because of that, you can actually make a claim that the real people in charge of the Salem witch trials and the Spanish Inquisition were actually practitioners of the occult and of sorcery and of witchcraft themselves, and that it was actually a form of sacrifice to kill these people and thus condemn them to hell. Because really what they did is they didn't give those people a chance to redeem themselves. Even a witch can be redeemed, especially when Christ died for the sins of all people. So it's only really the sins against the Holy Spirit and against God Himself that really condemn you. Because you're basically telling God, piss off, I don't want to know you, I don't want this redemption, I don't want to get close to you, I don't want to even know the truth. I'd rather live in ignorance. Well, then God's going to let you live in ignorance. Don't complain about it. And don't try to convince other people that your ignorance and your desire for ignorance is something that they should now just accept in their life because you didn't find the answers that you liked in order to make you feel like you're somehow more powerful than every other human being in the world, which is usually why most people are angry at God. People are angry at God because they thought that if becoming Christian will make them gods themselves. I don't understand why they think that magically they would become more powerful than every other person around them when Christ himself belittled himself and allowed the godhood to be basically kicked, spit on, and killed. But okay, whatever. Floats your guys' boats and your own superficial desires and needs. More important is that if you're going to need to discuss the idea of theocracy, the idea of creating a government of Christ, we need to establish the fact that it's not in our business to kill people who don't believe in God. That is the exact opposite, because once you kill them, they can't convert to Christ, which means they can't receive salvation for their sins if they're dead. Get my drift? So if we're running around killing people, we're preventing them from being saved. So the last thing Christians want to do is run around killing our enemies and our religious rivals. We fight out of defense. That has always been allowed. But the problem is that we don't go on the offensive to slaughter people. The only difference is against Nephilim, which is the whole reason why in the Old Testament they went around killing the Adamite king. They were killing only Nephilim. That's why when you look in those regions, those people were still there. They didn't destroy them all in genocide. They only killed people who had bonded with angels and regarded themselves as supernaturally divine and derivated human beings. So by their accounts, they weren't even human beings or the same species, which isn't technically genocide. Not in the same way that we would look at it, because it's not killing the same species at that point. Though one could say, oh, that's just racism, but then again, if you went into my whole concept about where racism even comes from, racism comes from the influence of angels into humanity, not the other way around. And so the idea of us having races is actually a form of domestication that angels put upon humanity. So you don't need to believe in race. If you believe in race, then you believe that there's an angel that basically cultivated your people to have the specific genetic cues that you have. That's if you're a believer. If you're not a believer, then none of this stuff really has to apply to you. You don't really have to care. But again, why would you even be here trying to have fun? That's just boring. Let's go in and actually beg the question of the premise that we are given in the Bible and conclude how these things would apply in the real world. I think that a lot of people want to consider the premises, but not actually consider the reality of living in the real world. They assume that if the Bible's true, then the world can't be true, and if the world's true, then the Bible can't be true, which makes no damn sense. The Bible comes from the real world and describes the real world, and the real world thus would be an aspect or a refraction of biblical truths, a diffusion of biblical truths into through the ether into the substance of this atomic world. So yeah, the importance of this is to kind of keep a grasp because again, whenever people run around with false prophecy or false worship, things like that, they are practicing witchcraft. So as Christians, you can be acting like a witch while not even knowing it. The second you start doing crazy things that aren't biblical or are out of the purpose of the redemptive means by which Christ tries to save people from their sins and from death and from the things that they do that hurt other people that they may not be considerate of otherwise. So yeah, um, it's important because otherwise deceivers can deceive the people who otherwise are innocent and would be willing to serve Christ and be with Christ and let Christ serve them. But they don't believe in Christianity because they never had a chance to even know what Christianity is because they've only ever known the Christianity that has been corrupted. And that's really crappy. My perspective, I've been lucky that I've always been able to meet different remnant churches, people who I feel like are a part of the remnant. I met plenty of people who I don't think are, but that's something that's variable. I don't know everything. I don't know where God's at. So I pray every day that God will save everybody, as many people as He can. Saved right now or unsaved right now. I hope that in the future all will come to the knowledge and truth that is Christ. But that comes through their own searching, for their own journeys, for their own beginning to want to take on that challenge of looking up at the stars at the sky at night and just being like, hey, if you're out there, I'm ready. I'm ready to hear you. Come and get me. I'm ready now. I think I'm ready. Help me see if I'm ready. Probe my heart, probe my mind. Help prepare me to be ready to receive your presence, God, so that I can know whether you are real in this world or not. When you genuinely do that and you have nothing to hold you in this world anymore, when you're done trying to hold on to a life that you know is false, it opens up something whole new, people. And the world is just so much better. You find opportunities where you did not see hope before because you realize that none of it was really holding you back. It was only holding this back. But you are eternal. Christ holding on to you. Thus, nothing here can really hold you down. No oppression, no judgment, nothing. No condemnation, no scoffing, no mockery. We have power from the creation and the source of it itself in every branching aspect of it, and we don't have to steal it like our enemies. We don't have to manipulate our way into using it like our enemies. We don't have to cheat to use the things that other people have to cheat at. When we get sick, God will heal us, whether it's through finding us a doctor that will give us the right kind of healing, but not be too intrusive about it, or He will heal you Himself using the Holy Spirit working in your body to build up your immunity, build up your resistance to this illness that's trying to take you over so you can win. But the victory will be yours if you seek the path that the Lord is leading you all the time. Sometimes He wants you to go to the community. Sometimes He wants you to go to the world so that they can be humbled by you, trusting them in Christ. But at the same time, there are times where we have to stand fast and go, no, today, Satan's children, we are going to be in charge of our own autonomy and our own bodies and our own decisions. That's fine too, but there's an ebb and flow. We're not always supposed to be on one side or the other. We don't get locked up in polarization. We can play both sides because He wields both hands. The enemy thinks he controls both hands, but his own house is divided. And the enemy cannot control his own, because that's why they fight amongst themselves. If we unify the church, the enemy will be too busy fighting itself. But once we unify the church, the enemy will have to get its crap together, and you'll see how quick they'll try to get it together, how quick Their talks about tolerance and being inclusive to all groups and all these things will fall to the wayside as they get to brass tacks of needing social, political, and economic control over us. We could be freed of that by studying Theocivics. It's not about applying some type of weird pseudo-religious, fundamentalist, cult-like environment in America. It's about going back to our roots and understanding that there's a shared cultural and traditional background that all races, cultural creeds, whatever you want to look at it, can unite by in America to shed our old lives and our old lineages and form a new lineage that is American, that is shared with all people who look different from us, speak different from us, but we've all formed one common tongue and one common way of speaking it that's different from all others who do. That is a blessing, and we should hold to it, hold fast to these things that make us unique. Americans should be proud of our uniqueness, even if other people scoff and call us Yankees. Be proud of it. The Europeans are too busy drinking on their tea and pretending that each and every single one of them is a mini monarch in themselves because that's how they think. And the pretentiousness of their cultural inputs come out when they judge our people. Though I am technically being hypocritical by judging them. It's not like every single person down there in other European nations I hate. There are plenty of people there, my friends from other European nations and European surrogate nations that I love. And I love them because they're amazing people. But dude, your guys' governments are annoying. Just like our government is annoying. But I live here in America and I can change my government. I can't change your guys' government, but I know you guys don't care for your governments being so intrusive in ours, and I don't like that my government's so intrusive in yours. So the way that I see it is this is the basis by which you can build lasting fellowship with other nations and within your own nation, within communities. How you can find ways to heal the problems that we're facing right now. That's why this is important. So when we talk tomorrow, I want you guys to keep that in mind. Because oftentimes, our boys on the atheist and ex-Christian side, they're trying to escape from the ramifications of a world that is currently being destroyed by the hubris of assuming that we know enough to control nature and to play God. That is the real issue here. That is the real problem. They can blame it on religion or anything they want in order to raise up their own idols and gods. We can pretend like it's not. But we didn't play a part in it by our false perception of what God wants for us to do in this world. God didn't ask us to sit here and create cities and build upon ourselves riches that we don't share with the rest of the world. But he also didn't tell us to go and make ourselves bankrupt out the whole world. He told us to help make this land prosperous. And then from there, we will be a blessing to other nations from helping them learn the same practices and taking on the same things without having to be imperialistic about it, without having to indoctrinate them through trade, through making them realize I want what they got and I want to be what they are. And we've seen aspects of that just get corrupted because we allowed ourselves to lose sight of where it really comes from, which is up there from God. Not from us and our hands and our money and our schemes to amass ourselves wealth that really doesn't exist. So I'm just saying, let's take it from a different advantage, people. Else we're going to find ourselves hanging over a ledge thinking we're clever. So, shepherds, I want you guys to stay hopeful. Because times are changing and this season's going to be good for us to get ready to level up. So get ready for your level up. And stay blessed.
Yeet! Oh. Yeet! Huh! Huh! Shit! Haha! Suck my cock, Obi-Wan! Any second! Come on! Oh, yeah! Okay, this is taking a lot longer than I thought. This is difficult. Oh, God!